Thank you for coming to the caucus training this evening. This is Dan Slater. He is the state party vice chair for the Colorado State Democratic Party and a caucus guru. So we are very, very glad to have him here to provide the official caucus training this evening. So please welcome Dan Slater.
First of all, let me start out by saying, with the standard caveat, I'm here as the vice chair of the State Democratic Party because I've been asked to do a caucus training. The state party does not endorse candidates, and none of the party officers have endorsed candidates, and I would show up anywhere I was asked to show up for caucus training. And in fact, I'm doing one tomorrow night in Penrose. I am the vice chair of the State Democratic Party, and maybe we can get this to work. Maybe not. There we go. We're going to first start out talking about why we do caucuses. Then we're going to talk about what it takes to prepare for caucuses. And in fact, some of that information may be a little dated because some of those deadlines have already passed. Then we're going to talk about actually running your precinct caucus. And then finally, we're going to talk about what you need to do after you adjourn your precinct caucus. But let's start by talking about just kind of a very quick primer on why we actually do precinct caucuses. And the timeline is very important. The caucus is the first step in Colorado's nominating process. And from the caucus, we elect delegates to our county assemblies. And at the county assembly, then we elect delegates to the state assembly, where at the state assembly, we place people on the ballot for statewide elected positions. Why do we caucus in Colorado? First of all, understand that the caucus process is not something that's used in every state. In fact, it's not really used hardly in any other state the way Colorado uses it. There are a handful of states that use caucuses for the purposes of nominating their presidential delegates, but there's only maybe 2 or 3 states that actively use caucuses as a part of the nomination process. Other states do different things different ways. They either pay a fee to be on the ballot, or you circulate a petition, or the party central committee determines who's on the ballot, things like that. But that's not the only reason why we caucus. The caucus is important because it's the central organizing block for our county parties. It's where we organize what our county parties are. It's where, in fact, we elect who is on the county party central committee. In fact, the county party is determined at the precinct caucus level. It's where we organize our precincts. It's the one time every 2 years where you meet with people who live in your neighborhood, who live near you, and you get to talk about why you're Democrats and how you can help the Democratic Party in your neighborhood. And finally, it's where we establish our party values and our party priorities through the platform process. At the precinct caucus, we establish resolutions that then go up the level to the county assembly and the state assembly, and in presidential years up to the national convention in terms of determining what our platform will be for our party. It's kind of complicated, but I wanted to try to explain maybe in a more graphical format how we get from the precinct caucus level to the state level. From the precinct caucus, we elect delegates to the county assembly. At the county assembly, we place candidates on the ballot for county level offices. And in larger counties, they hold different assemblies within their county assembly. So if you are in a Senate district that's all within Denver County or Arapahoe County, well, you're going to have a Senate district assembly where you determine who are going to be the Democratic candidates on the ballot for that Senate district. The same thing with the House district. And in counties that have county commissioner districts where they elect within the district, and those are usually the larger counties, they have county commissioner district assemblies where only the people that live in those districts determine who their county commissioner candidates are. Most counties in Colorado don't have county commissioner district assemblies because they elect, although they have county commissioner districts, they elect the commissioners at large from the county at large. From the county assembly, then, we also elect delegates to our congressional district assembly, where we place candidates on the ballot for Congress, but also for the State Board of Education, and for the State Board of or the CU Board of Regents. The county assembly for smaller counties or portions of larger counties that are grouped in with other counties, they elect delegates to their multi-county House and Senate district assemblies, which will meet at a different time. So if you are in a Senate district that has an election this year, but it contains part of Denver and part of Arapahoe County. The Denver delegates will elect their own delegates to that assembly, and the Arapahoe County delegates will elect their own delegates to that assembly, and that assembly will meet at a later date. And finally, what I think a lot of you are interested in, the county assembly also elects delegates to the state assembly, which is the final part of the process this year. There is no national assembly or national convention. There are several dates in this process. As I mentioned, at least one of those has already passed. January 15th was the last day to register as a Democrat to participate in the precinct caucus. March 16th is the night we have our precinct caucuses all across Colorado, the same night for the Democrats and the Republicans. And then from March 26th to April 15th, that's the window when counties can hold their county assemblies. And the counties have generally picked dates all within that window. The biggest dates for most counties, particularly the larger counties, are all the Saturdays within that window. Before or by May 21st, the congressional districts have to have their assemblies to put their candidates on the ballot. And at least half of them, or around half of them, will have them on May 21st, that Friday night, in conjunction with the weekend that is the state assembly in Broomfield. May 22nd is when we have the actual state assembly, which is where all the delegates come together, meet, and put the candidates on the ballot statewide. And then finally, the final step in this whole process of determining who the Democratic Party will select as our nominee is the primary that's held on August 3rd. So let's talk, now that we've kind of talked about the timeline and why we do caucuses, let's talk a little bit about what you need to have ready before you go to precinct caucus in each of your precincts. I try to get pictures from different parts of the state. That's a part of the parade in Lamar, Colorado, and Prowers County. We're going to talk about 5 different things that you need to get ready before the caucus. Number 1, you need to make sure you have the materials together, particularly if you're going to be leading a precinct caucus. If you're a precinct committee person, or if for some reason your county has designated you as one of the people that's going to be leading the precinct caucus. You need to understand what the rules are for precinct caucus. This is one of those steps in understanding those rules, but another step is doing what this gentleman over here is doing, and that's reading the rules of the caucus beforehand. We're going to talk about the caucus sign, which should already be out. We're going to talk about the importance of scouting out the location. And finally, we're going to talk about the need to publicize the caucus yourself, and don't leave that just up to the county or the state party to do. The first thing is to make sure you have your materials together. In some of the caucus packets, maybe most of the caucus packets that the different counties hand out, they have a checklist of different things that you should have at your precinct caucus. Pencils, scrap paper. Usually there's a checklist of the things that should be in, the different forms that should be in your caucus packet. Make sure you have everything. It's much better if you get your caucus packets beforehand to go back to the county a day or two before the caucus and say, I'm missing the election judge form, rather than trying to find it on the night of the caucus. Now again, in bigger counties, it's not that much of a big deal for individual precinct captain to have to do this, because you're going to often be having your caucuses by these large caucus locations where you have 5 or 10 or 20 precincts meeting at once, and there'll be someone in charge of that location who should be doing that for you. And then you need to ask yourself, as you go through what caucus night's going to look at, what kind of things do you need to add to that packet? What kind of things do you think you should bring? A calculator, for instance. Some counties may not provide you a calculator, and as we go through the math portion of the precinct caucus, you'll find that a calculator can be very helpful and indeed somewhat necessary. Otherwise, you're trying to use someone's cell phone calculator to figure it out, and that may not be as easy. Understanding the rules is as simple and as complicated as reading and rereading the caucus rules. Those are available, I think, on the state party website. They're available in all of the caucus packets. So make sure that you kind of have some degree of understanding about what's in those rules. And if you have questions about those, ask somebody. Ask somebody in the campaign. Ask somebody in the county party. Ask me. I'll have my email at the end of the presentation for you to look at.